The question we will be talking about today is, what is communication? A simple definition of communication is the exchange of information or news. We know communication to be much more than just a simple exchange of information. So let's talk about that. Here we have two different types of communication, being verbal and nonverbal. First, we'll talk about verbal. Verbal communication is communication that uses words. So what do I mean when I say communication that uses words? Well, it is communication that we connect through our hearing and not through our visual. We use verbal communication when we have conversations with others, or even when we're giving a speech. When giving a speech or communicating, we have a voice. This voice is given to an audience. Our audience is the receiver. We are the senders. Next, we have nonverbal communication. This is communication that does not use words. This type of communication does not use voice, like the last one. This includes a person's facial expressions, gestures, body language and posture, proxemics, being a person's personal space, appearance, such as clothes or hairstyle, tone of voice, etc. All these are examples of nonverbal cues that we as humans notice when talking to someone. These nonverbal cues can be positive and negative based off the situation and how someone wants them to be interpreted. So, we can see that communication is a way for a sender and a receiver to share their knowledge, attitudes, and skills. So let's talk about communication models and how these are categorized. There are three major types of communication models, being the linear model, the interactive model, and the transactional model. First, we'll talk about the linear model. In this model, there is a sender who relays a message and a receiver who takes in this message. But in this model, the receiver gives no feedback. This is called one-way communication. Next is the interactive model. Just like the linear, there is a sender and a receiver for this message, but this time, the receiver includes their feedback to the message. This is two-way communication. The last, transactional model. This is simultaneous communication. Messages are being created by both receiver and sender at the same time. Here are a few ways that we use communication to our advantage when it comes to education, and that is through active reading and critical thinking. When we use active reading, we have conversations with our reading. We ask questions about our passages so we can relate to what we are reading. We ask questions before and at the end of passages so we understand what we have read. We also take bulleted notes as we read, and at the end we summarize what we have read. Then we have critical thinking. Critical thinking is similar to active reading in the sense that critical thinkers raise many questions. Critical thinkers can successfully conceptualize and analyze information that they have gathered. These types of thinkers see past the lenses that have us perceive something to be what it isn't. These are a few ways we use communication and also a few concepts within communication. These ideas that we have learned help us to understand the question, what is communication? And helps us to see how we use communication every day.